Here's your DMARC public service announcement. So, email is still the number one entry for cyber attacks. But what many businesses don't realize is that attackers don't always need to break into their systems to cause real damage. Sometimes they need to simply just impersonate you. Domain spoofing has become one of the most common tactics used in phishing and business email compromises today. An attacker can still send emails that appear to come from a legitimate company's domain, including invoices, password resets, asks for financial assistance, or executive requests, even if they have no access to your actual emailing system. To the recipient, the email looks real, so they take action and damage themselves or others in the process, right? And that's where DMARC comes into play. This is where the authentication standards with SPF and DMARC and DKIM actually work, right? So SPF and DKIM help verify that the messages are actually being sent from the authorized servers and haven't been altered in transit, right? But on their own, they don't actually tell the receiving email systems what to do. They tell them what to do when something in the authentication fails. That's where DMARC comes in. DMARC, which stands for Domain-Based Messaging Authentication Reporting and Conformance Standards. I know that's a mouthful. And what it does is builds on SPF and DKIM and gives the domain owners control. It allows organizations to tell receiving email servers how to handle email messages that fail the actual authentication and who can see the emails using their domains. In simple terms, DMARC helps organizations answer three important questions. Who is sending email on behalf of our domain? Is that sender legitimate? And what should happen if it's not? But despite how important DMARC is, DMARC adoption across the entire world for small businesses and mid-sized businesses is still relatively low. That creates a tremendous opportunities for MSPs. And now that's because businesses, it's not because they don't actually care, but it's because the DMARC security part of it can be really confusing for them, right? Organizations often discover that they have dozens of legitimate sending sources emailing on their behalf, and that's, marketing systems, invoicing tools, ticketing systems, HR software, CRMs, and much more. And each and every one of them require authentication alignment to avoid legitimate emails being blocked if you set the security. But without visibility, it becomes difficult to safely move those to the enforcement policy of reject. And now sending providers mandate a security policy of reject or quarantine to be able to send emails across their network. And so that complexity is exactly why organizations are reluctant to do it themselves, and they need to rely on managed service providers for guidance. For MSPs, the opportunity here isn't just about implementing technology, it's about helping clients understand the risk that they may not even realize exists and what the damage is doing to their deliverability. And one of the most effective ways to approach this type of opportunity and conversation is not by leading with the technology itself, but by leading with the business impact that it causes the firm by their emails not being delivered. Instead of asking a client if they've implemented DMARC, something they probably don't know anything about, right? You want to ask them, do you know if anybody could currently send emails on your behalf that look like they're coming from you, but they're not? Or do you know if all of your invoicing, email marketing, or maybe your reps' CRM emails, do you know if they're all delivering? Most of the time, the answer to these questions is no. And so these questions shift the discussion from a technical configuration to a business risk or business outcome conversation. And that's really where you want to be. Many business owners assume because they're on Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace that their domains can't be impersonated, but that couldn't be any further from the truth. Authentication and domain protections are separate layers, and without proper configuration across every single sending source, spoofing and deliverability issues can still occur. Once clients understand that risk, the conversation becomes much easier. Another helpful way for MSPs to reframe it is that around the topic of brand protection and trust. Every company relies on emails to communicate with their customers, their partners, and their vendors, right? And if attack successfully spoofs their domain, it doesn't just create a security risk, it's going to create real brand damage and trust damage. You see customers that receive fraudulent emails appearing to come from your company may not know the difference. And if the company wasn't technically breached, the reputational impact is going to be significant, especially if somebody else gets defrauded for thousands of dollars in your name. By helping clients implement proper email authentication and visibility, MSPs are helping protect that trust. And finally, the most important takeaway for MSPs is this: DMARC conversations shouldn't start ever with enforcement or technical jargon. It should start with visibility and business outcomes, right? Not knowing is the actual dangerous part, and this is what you can lead the conversation with. Understanding who is sending the email, identifying unknown senders, and mapping out legitimate services will build the foundation for a safe and effective policy. When MSPs approach DMARC as an educational conversation rather than a technical product discussion, it becomes much easier for the client to understand. Because in the end of the day, DMARC is more than just email configuration. It's about making sure that someone who receives emails from your organization, they can trust it and they know it actually comes from you. Hope this helps. Reach out if you have any questions.